Hi, I'm Bart Hanson. I'm the owner and operator of CrushLivePoker.com. The following hand comes from our call-in show that we record at 4:45 p.m. Pacific Time every Monday. If you want to call in your hand, check out the phone number in the description.
So this is maybe my fourth or fifth hand. Played through the blinds, and then I'm on the button, and we put in the button straddle on.
Okay, so button straddle.
A lot of people are putting the button straddle on. It's one of those ones where it
Ultimate
starts,
last action or something?
like starts under the gun and comes around and then skips the button and then goes
Right.
to the big blind and then comes back.
I think they call that a Houston straddle. So it's not, so it doesn't start from the small blind. It actually starts from under the gun. And then you'll always have the last action, right? Even if people three bet in front of you or something like that, right? Like if
Yeah, you always get
UTG1
last
raises
action.
and then there's a three bet, it like if UTG raises and say like MP1 three bets, it goes back to UTG1, right? Before it even goes to you. Is that
No,
right?
you just kind of play it. No, it's a little bit different. Just kind of plays in order. Basically, it'll just go all the way around if anyone bets, and then it'll skip you and go through the blinds and then come back to you, and then based on your action, it goes back under the gun. Yeah. So it's
Yeah,
a
but
little bit weird,
wouldn't that be the case though? Wouldn't it skip you? If UTG opens for a raise and someone three bets them, wouldn't it skip you?
yes, it does skip you. Goes small blind, big blind, and then back to you. Yeah.
You mean it goes back to you before UTG decides whether or not they're going to
Correct.
call the three bet? Okay, so it's not an
Correct.
ultimate
Yeah.
last straddle. Okay, so button straddle. So
Yeah.
this is a 10, right?
The 10.
Okay, yep.
Middle position, young Asian kid, with tons of chips, probably 3,000, big stack of blacks. He makes it 35.
Okay.
And folds back all the way to the big blind, who's a regular that I play with often, loose calling station guy. He calls at 25, and then it's on me in the button straddle, and I just decided to call with 6-8 of diamonds.
So is it the big blind that calls or the straddle that calls?
The big blind calls,
Okay.
and I'm the straddle on the button.
Oh, excuse me. I was thinking the straddle was under the gun. So the big blind calls, and you have 8-6 of diamonds on the button straddle, and you call. Okay.
Correct. The flop comes out 9 of diamonds, 3 of diamonds, 7 of clubs.
9 of diamonds,
And
3 of diamonds, 7 of clubs. So you flop an open-ended straight draw and flush draw?
correct.
Okay. So a huge flop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm ready to get it in.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes from the big blind checks, and then the pre-flop raiser makes it 65. And then I kind of do one of those live things where, like, I looked over, and the big blind was basically already ready to call,
Uh-huh.
which kind of affected me a little bit, and I wasn't sure if it should have, but I just decided to call and see what came on the turn.
Well,
And
here's
then
the thing
big
about
blind
that, though.
called right away.
That doesn't make a ton of sense to me because you want to promote. There's a little bit of like a PLO concept. Like you want to promote the fact that you don't have the nut draw here. You know what I mean? Like you have 8 high diamonds, and to be honest with you, if the guy looked like he was going to call anyways, I think that sort of dissuades him from having like lot of top pair hands. One of the things we've talked about quite a bit from a lot of the nature of these calls that have come in are people that get into situations where it's obvious that they're going to be up against a made hand and like another draw and they have the nut draw. And in that particular spot, there's really no reason to drive out the other hand if the made hand is all in. You know, when you see like some sort of main pot, right? And then you're thinking about like building a side pot or something like that. But here you have an 8 high diamond draw. So, I mean, yeah, you've got a nut to the 5, you know, and if a 10 were to come, I mean, it's unlikely someone's got jack 8, but I would actually want to just drive. I would want to play this like fast. Because if you raise here, you could get the big blind off of some hand that he was going to overcall with, and the preflop raiser, it doesn't. He obviously could be c-betting air here, and you're going to be 50% against any overpair. The best thing that could happen is that if you get to raise like a hand like Queen Jack of Diamonds out behind you, right? With this specific hand, I would definitely raise, especially if I saw the guy calling behind me. You know?
Yeah, and that was one of my questions too, because when I saw he was about to call that, and I realized it affected me after the hand, where like I was ready to basically raise get it in,
Right.
or right.
So you don't
But
think
then I
that
was like,
you don't think your raise would have affected whether or not the big blind was going to call?
I think if I raised the big blind folds, my take on him, because he's the guy I play with regularly, and he's the guy that might call with any pair
So you were
You know,
trying to keep him in. Is that what the case was? Is that what you're
yeah,
saying?
yeah. In my mind, I was like, I don't. He basically didn't have a strong effect on me because I either I'm going to hit my hand, you know,
But what about
and
if you raise and you get him off like a 9 or a 7 and the preflop raiser has nothing?
yeah, yeah, and so, that was
And
one of my
that's,
points is that that
yeah.
I noted after hand is that when I was like, well, I guess I want to keep him in, but then I wasn't sure if I did in that in that situation where I had such a big draw where
Uh,
he could have
so
Jack 10 of diamonds or something like that that has me in a weird spot.
so the pot is
And
like we just put 200 in on the flop, right? So the pot's what, like 300 and change, something like that, right? What's the turn?
yeah, so yeah, I have it down at 310.
Okay.
And then the turn comes and the turn pairs the three,
Okay.
and it doesn't bring in another flush draw.
I'm gonna put 3 of
Um,
clubs, okay?
and then so the big blind checks and the preflop raiser now bets 125. Um, and then at this point, I just was thinking to myself, I'm like, well, even if worst case scenario now he has an overpair and he's more confident in it, thinking that he could now beat like a, you know, 9-7 type of hand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in my mind, I was like, well, I felt like if I call again at that size, then I'm clearly on a draw, and am I even going to get paid if I hit? And
Yeah, but the
you
thing
know,
is that I mean, well, here's the thing. I mean, I would not fold here for a number of reasons, but this is sort of why you demonstrate that it becomes a much cleaner call when the pot's heads up and not multi-way, which is part of the reason why we talk about three betting in spots to gain position over the field and get it heads up. Now, you don't need to do that pre-flop because you have the ultimate last action of the button, and I wouldn't have three bet your hand, but it just goes to show you the theory behind it. Because like if
mhm.
you're heads up now and there is no other guy, you're a lot safer. It's like a lot cleaner call. But you're saying you just said that. Well, I don't even know if I'm going to get paid. Your draw is so big. He's betting 125 into like a pot of 310. You don't even need to get paid. You still have the right equity, right? Unless
Well,
you're
I wasn't.
dominated.
Yeah, right. I wasn't actually. I wasn't in a position that I was thinking of folding. I was just basically in the decision of whether I should call the bet or if I'm just going to go with the hand.
Oh, I thought you said
Um,
you were going to fold.
no, no, no.
Oh,
So,
okay.
right. So when he bets 125, I was in my position. I was just thinking, is it better to call or is it better? Because like in my mind, if I call and then a diamond comes, is he going to call if when I shove?
Yeah, but
Right.
wait a minute. You
Or is
mean
he?
you're saying that you just want to. All right, so there's a couple things going on here. I could get on board with that if you thought that you needed to drive the big blind out of the hand because you thought he had like higher diamonds. But let's forget about that for a second because I'm going to read something into this what you are thinking. You can tell me if I'm right or not. It sounds to me like you're saying, well, I'm just going to put the extra money in even if I have no fold equity because I'm not going to get paid off at the end against the preflop raiser if the draw comes in. And if that's what you're thinking, that's a little bit warped. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, it was more of just I felt like calling and then missing and folding was too weak.
Why is that too
And
weak? The guy's pricing you in. You have the proper equity to call even without any implied odds behind. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Are you there? No, some people in the
no,
chat are saying if you're not raising the, this draw, when do you raise? Ryan Durkee says this. And listen, like I said, like you could I could get on board sometimes with raising the turn, sort of waiting to raise the turn because at this level, it's a stronger play and it yields more fold equity than raising the flop. I don't think that's the case though on this particular turn card because if you're full, people at this level don't suddenly like if you're slow playing a set on the flop, they're not going to jam a full house on the turn. But say for example, like I'm trying to think of something that like might come like say, a 6 were to come. Okay, so you pick up a pair with your open-ended straight draw and flush draw, and then you jam that, and it gets really hairy, for an overpair. I get that, but it sounds to me like that's not why you're raising. It doesn't sound to me like that's why you're thinking of raising here. You don't think it's going to yield fold equity, and I don't think it doesn't seem to me like it's going to yield a whole lot of fold equity. I mean, I guess it's possible if the preflop raiser, you know, might be betting like twice with overcards because he thinks that that's a blank. But if you don't think that
yeah,
there's fold equity, then there's no reason
Well,
to raise to jam
well, it
unless,
was
like I said, you're
in,
trying to drive the guy out behind you.
yeah, that was. I guess that's where I got mixed up is because in my brain I was like, well, I'm not going to fold, and if I'm not going to fold, I should I basically am I all in or am I calling, right? And
Why
then I
can't
didn't want to just
why can't you
yeah
just call? I mean, you still even have some money left behind, right? You started at 565. I mean, you've got like 300 if you after the call,
yeah
right?
yeah yeah. I mean if we just go through it, he ended up putting 125 in, and then I shoved for
Okay.
yeah it was 335 more, um, and then the big blind quickly folded, and then he tanked for a long time and ended up folding. So, I mean, I did win the hand, but I felt afterwards, I was like, when the three came, I felt like it wasn't a good card to jam. But then I was just stuck in that weird spot where I was like, what's the better play on the river,
Well, here's the
essentially?
thing. Here's the thing. I agree with you. The three is not a good card to jam. Normally, I would not jam here as a bluff. Now, if the guy is totally now, obviously, it ended up working out for you. So you ended up making the right play, but it sounds to me, and I'm trying to help you and work you through this, that it was for the wrong reason. You just have to take a step back and realize probably the better play here is to call. If you're gonna raise the turn, it's because you think it's going to yield fold equity and to try to possibly clean up and get a higher draw, excuse me, behind you off the hand. If that's your reasoning, I can get on board with it. I don't think this is the right run out for it. But there's absolutely no reason why you can't call, in a spot like this. But Chris, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Hey guys, if you like what you've seen here, please click on the subscribe button and you'll get notified every time we put up a new video. And if you want to check out crushlivepoker.com for the first month free, use the code YTA200. Click on the link right there.